We now turn our attention to the other big story that we are tracking on the show, which is Chinmoy Krishna's bail plea. The jailed Hindu priest, he's been in prison for 57 days. Today is his 57th day. His bail plea was likely to be heard sometime this week, but it now looks like it's been pushed till next week. In a high court is where it has to be taken up. After his lawyers were finally able to file an appeal after receiving a certified copy of the judgment of the lower court, which rejected his bail application on the 2nd of January. Chinmoy Krishna Brahmachari was arrested in Dhaka in Bangladesh in November last year in a sedition case, in a propped up sedition case, which lawyers in the country have termed as a false, ludicrous charge. Das's lawyers have filed a petition in the High Court seeking bail, but that hasn't happened. In fact, that hearing itself is not taking place. Chinmoy Krishna had emerged as a voice against the oppression of Hindu minorities by radical and terrorist forces in Bangladesh, which have not been reined in by the Yunus regime in Bangladesh. Lawyers who have appeared on behalf of Chinmoy Krishna have also been attacked by radical groups, and the atrocities that the minorities continue to face in Bangladesh remains unchecked. The questions that we are going to pose to our panelists in just a short while will be about the fate of Chinmoy Krishna and, more importantly, what does it tell about Mohammad Yunus and his interim government. But before that, let me get in my colleague Saurabh Gupta joining me from Kolkata to give a sense of where things are right now. Saurabh, you've been tracking this case very closely. Unfortunately, what we are telling our viewers is that there is no update, there is no clarity on the fate of Chinmoy Krishna.
Well, yes, and obviously what should happen is that in a case like this, where there have been multiple pleas for early hearings, those pleas seems to have largely been, denied by the courts. And even when it's listed, what we've been given to understand that, courts actually go by matters serial number wise. And sometimes the serial number doesn't come up. And that means that if you have a date after so many days in court, and if that doesn't come up, it can just get pushed back to any day. And this is something that, of course, has been happening consistently in this case. Even if you see the hearing in the lower court, it was just pushed because, on one day the lawyers couldn't get proper documents. So there were threats in the courtroom. Eventually it took place. Then on 2nd January, again it took place, and there it was denied. Even the certified copy of that judgment to come so that he could move to a higher court to apply for bail was, delayed. And now when the lawyers have finally been able to move the High Court, it doesn't come up for hearing. So many would believe that this is a ploy to continue the incarceration. At least that is something that many quarters have alleged. And this is something that perhaps is part of the larger plan to try and keep this man in jail for as long as possible, because there have been experts in Bangladesh, legal experts, who say that the case is a weak one. And if it's actually heard on merits, it does not have legs to stand on. However, the other way to keep someone incarcerated is simply don't let the bail hearing come up. Or let the system work in a way that somehow, even when you have a chance to have your say in court, you don't actually get it because of the way the system works. So that's what has been happening, and of course there's concern even in India over the way in which this bail hearing has been denied, especially given the fact that Chinmoy Krishna has been booked for charges that have been considered frivolous and, frankly, trumped up charges.
All right, Saurabh, before I get in some of the other panelists, I want to first of all urge you to stay with us because I want to keep getting these updates. And before I get in Veena Sikri to really talk about the diplomatic and the larger angle to it, talk to us about what people are telling you. There's a very large ISKCON presence in Kolkata as well. Many people are feeling that what is happening is outrageous. Talk to us about what you've been speaking to a lot of people there. What are they saying about this case and its larger impact on the relationship between India and Bangladesh?
Well, Chinmoy Krishnadas's earlier lawyer was admitted to hospital, and of course then we had Apurba Kumar Bhattacharjee, who was representing him. And, all of them have been saying that the case itself, the way it's seen, is that it is built as a case to try and keep him in jail. When it comes to merits of the case, there's very little if it's actually argued on merit, and it won't stand in court if legal principles of justice, of fairness are applied. However, the system has its way of making people continue to stay in jail. And that is something that we see happening with Chinmoy Krishna Das. And that is why there's a lot of concern, because he's seen as this person who really was organizing, the minority community, especially the Hindu community, against the radical forces at a time when the community is facing attacks and continues to face attacks. So obviously this is something that, has been an observation as far as Bangladesh is concerned, and the condition of minorities, especially the Hindu community, who continue to come under attack from radical forces, from hardline forces, that the current establishment of the day hasn't been able to rein in.
All right, Saurabh, stay with us. I want to quickly get in Veena Sikri as well, who's been India's ambassador to Bangladesh in the past. Talk to us, ma'am, about the impact of this case. It's been, as I said, today is the 57th day. There's no clarity on when Chinmoy Krishna Das is going to get, in fact, the legal rights that every Bangladeshi citizen is entitled to. His bail hearing is not coming up for any time. It was supposed to happen this week, hasn't happened. How do you see this and its larger impact?
I think I'm very glad that you're organizing this discussion, because this is a very important issue. And it's relevant to note that immediately the day on 5th August, when Sheikh Hasina was forced to leave Dhaka, the first attack came on the minorities, on the Hindus, the Buddhists, the Christians and other indigenous groups. And this was absolutely such a sharp attack. I mean, lynchings, killings, raping, destruction of property, desecration of temples, vandalizing of statues, grabbing of, homes and business establishments. And after that, it has just continued. It has gone on and on. It has gone into attacks on economic livelihood and, people who were recruited to the police, the Hindus among them have been told not to join. And, the Hindu teachers have been forced to resign. Hindu professors have been forced to resign, all by mob justice, all by mobocracy. And I think that the role of Chinmoy Krishna Das Bhattacharjee has been very significant, because he was able to organize the community very well. And for the first time, you see, with every time that such attacks on minorities have taken place, small incidents or few incidents, you've seen that people have sort of been nervous and have left Bangladesh and come to India or gone somewhere else. But this time, the minorities decided to take a stand. And they said, no, we are going to stay. This is our country. We are citizens of this country, and we want our rights. So the demand for the rights of the...
But it is those rights that are not being granted right now. The bail hearing is not coming up. It was supposed to come this week. Now, the question I want to ask you is that now that Donald Trump is in power, he is now the president of the United States, he raised the issue of Bangladeshi Hindus during the Diwali greeting to Hindus around the world. Do you see him now pressurizing Muhammad Yunus that he needs to give fair treatment to Chinmoy Krishna Das?
Oh, absolutely. I think the whole issue, because as you rightly said, President Donald Trump, while campaigning, had spoken about the chaos in Bangladesh and about the barbaric attacks on Christians and Hindus and others. So I do expect that certainly as president, he will look into both these issues. And here the issues are, number one, the 8-point demand, which has been coordinated by Chinmoy Krishna Das. And he has made these 8-point demands on behalf of the minorities and given it to the government. But the government is ignoring it. It's not even appeared in the local media. I believe yesterday bail was given to some lawyers who had also, a large number of lawyers had been incarcerated also with Chinmoy Das, and those people have got bail. But right now, the rights that Chinmoy Das is asking for the minority communities, those have to be looked in, and we certainly hope that President Trump will take this up in a big way. And the second issue that he should take up is the chaos in Bangladesh. There is no law and order. The economy is in free fall. There is no democracy. There is no liberty. There is no stability. And all that is that the Islamists are, doing their mob justice all the time. The Jamaat-e-Islami is calling the shots. They're not allowing the elections to be held. They're calling for reforms, which is not even allowed for an interim government or a caretaker government government cannot even go into the issue of reforms, and they want to delay the elections till the reform. But this group has no authority. Reforms can only be done by an elected parliament, and the sooner that the elected parliament is allowed to function, the better it is. And even all the
Indeed.
parties are asking for it. We certainly hope that President Trump will take this up and insist on early elections. And this present interim regime is not in any position to conduct free and fair and inclusive elections, because they have completely sidelined the Awami League, which is about 35-40%
In fact, Veena ji, I was going to come to just that there's been a lot of talk about elections, but no clear roadmap. Even the main opposition party is saying conduct elections this year in July or August, but there's no word coming in from the so-called interim but unelected leader, Mohammad Yunus.
Yes, absolutely. He is not in control at all. He is doing whatever the Jamaat-e-Islami tells him. And then the other organization like Hizb ut-Tahrir, which is a banned organization, but a member of this organization is one of the advisors to the government and also special assistant to Mohammad Yunus. So we know where all the pressure is coming from. And, the interim government or caretaker government is not even supposed to have any party people. It's supposed to be a neutral, non-party government, interim government. But this group that is there now, they have violated every premise in the constitution, and they are not allowing any elections to be held. The BNP, as you correctly said, is asking for early elections. They are a very important party, and the BNP, the Awami League, I think, as the two major parties controlling about 75 to 80% of the electoral votes in Bangladesh, I'm sure they will get together and ask and appeal to President Trump for early elections, because it's the only way is to have free, fair and inclusive elections under
Sikri,
a
this is the only
non-party.
way. Elections must happen. Rule of law needs to be established once again in Bangladesh. Really appreciate you taking out the time to speak to me on a story